Happiness Patrol. Now we're getting into the really weird side of Doctor Who. This was the second serial of the 25th season, first broadcast in three parts between the 2nd and the 16th of November 1988. And this story tends to be fairly divisive among fans. Some think it's a guilty pleasure for them. Others think it's the worst story Doctor Who ever did, or one of the worst stories. I'm kind of in the middle. I mean, I think it's as I say, I think it's the weirdest story I've ever seen of Doctor Who. But at the same time, I can kind of see the fun of it and kind of see what they were trying to do. And it's not an easy thing to do. So what's the basic setup? You got the Doctor, played once again by Sylvester McCoy, and his companion Ace, played by Sophie Aldred. They land on the planet of Terra Alpha. It's a seemingly ordinary world, except it's ruled by something of a tyrannical dictator named Helen A, played by Sheila Hancock. And Helen A, I got the feeling she's kind of like a mix of Cruella de Vil, Blofeld, the Joker, and Joy from Inside Out. She wants everyone to be happy, everything to be sugar, spice, everything nice. So much so that she has something called the Happiness Patrol, to make sure everyone's happy, and anyone who is even remotely sad or has any other emotion other than happiness and joy, she deems a killjoy, and they're quickly disposed of, never to be seen again. And she has a variety of people to help her out with this, including one of her agents having this patrol named Trevor Sigma, played by John Normington, who he appears at the start, and he comes across a woman who kind of seems rather sad, and he's like, well, you know what, there's actually a place you can go where people can indulge in their kind of sorrow, just have a bit of sad time in the side. So I'm like, really? It's like, here, take my card. Trevor Sigma, no, the other side. Agent of Happiness Patrol. Oh, fudge. And yeah, he was quite a clever choose for this. And she also got her husband Joseph C. and a man named Gilbert M. who've designed things for her to help her induce happiness, including a robot known as the Candy Man, who acts as her executioner, played by David John Pope, and her lovely kind of breed of dog named Fifi. And as I said, probably her most sinister part of everything is her executioner, the Candy Man. Seemingly a robot made up to look like pieces of candy who he spends his entire day making sweets. Sweets that kill people. And one of her favourite methods of killing people is something called the fondant surprise. Basically, they're made to stand under a giant pipe, and then are seemingly covered in molten sugar, which I'm not entirely sure what entirely does to them. It either drowns them, burns them alive, suffocates them. I'm not entirely sure, but still, it's a rather over-the-top way to kill someone. Just to have them covered in fondant. That's weird. I mean, apparently Helen A is supposed to be reminiscent of a British figure who was quite prevalent in the 1980s in Britain. But this isn't a political channel. I try not to do politics if I can avoid it, so you know what? I'm just going to leave that one to you. You can probably work it out. But as I said, I feel kind of two ways about this. I mean, it is rather a silly story, and it is possibly the weirdest story I've ever seen. But at the same time, it's got a good message. I mean, this was a message that took all of Pixar at their best to get across. That sometimes true happiness doesn't mean being consistently happy all the time. It doesn't mean sugar, spice, and everything nice. It sometimes just means sadness and happiness are not polar opposites. They're required in order to experience true happiness. That sometimes you do need the other emotions. Sadness, fear, anger, disgust. And yeah, I mean, Helen A is stuck at a point where she thinks that to be happy everyone needs to be smiling. But then bit of a spoiler, at the end of the story when she's kind of preparing to flee when her plan's gone wrong, and she sees that her dog has been killed in the ensuing chaos, that's when she finally breaks down. Seemingly she bursts out kind of crying and sobbing over this dog that she loved, and seemingly watching her entire empire crumble. To which I have seen that people say they do like this one, as it shows how powerful the Doctor can be, that he can take down an entire planet in one night. That they also end up meeting with two other characters along the journey, a Happiness Patrol agent named Susan Q, played by Leslie Dunlop, who is kind of at the point of where she is a member of Happiness Patrol, but she isn't necessarily happy. She doesn't necessarily like it. At the point when Ace is seemingly forced that she may have to become part of it, Susan says to her, "I think what you would be best at is the disappearing act." Really? How does it work? Well, what it is, I put the key down on the table, I turn my back, and then when I turn back again, you'll be gone. It's just like, yeah, this feels about right. And also a jazz harmonica player named Earl Sigma, played by Richard D. Sharp, who, in this world where nothing is allowed to be blue, everything has to be bright and happy, of course Helena has banned the blues because, well, blues music spawned from depression, and that's what ultimately where quite a lot of blues players get their stigma, that they kind of build on sadness and build into their music. But obviously blues wouldn't be allowed in a world like this. So, plus, I couldn't help. Okay, once I watched this particular story, as I said, I watched through it. I thought this is weird, but then as the message started to reveal itself, I was strangely reminded of a quote from Vanilla Sky, said by Jason Lee, I believe it was. I can't remember. But the quote was, "The sweet is never as sweet without the sour," which I think fits kind of well into this story. That I know I've used this phrase several times, but not everything can be sugar, spice, and yada yada. Ultimately, you do need the sour in order to truly appreciate the sweetness. Sometimes you have to go through the sad things in order to be more grateful for the happy. So, yeah, as I said, the Happiness Patrol, it's a weird story, but overall, I think it works. Weirdly, people say that this is the worst story Doctor Who ever did, or a contender for worst. I personally think Warriors of the Deep from the Fifth Doctor was weaker, but especially enough, the Happiness Patrol is so bizarre, but it works, and I'm not entirely sure why. I mean, it's a story that shouldn't work. I mean, this is a story with a villain and a henchman who looks like the mascot for Licorice Allsorts. But strangely, that madness works in its advantage. So, yeah, the Happiness Patrol, I know I'm standing in the middle, but honestly, it's not that or that. It's really more around there, but then kind of creeping up a bit there. So I'd say, if anything, if you say that that's 180 degrees and that's 90 degrees, it's really more kind of in the middle. And I honestly don't know how else to describe it. It's weird. But ultimately watch it for yourself. Decide whether you think it's a guilty pleasure for yourself or the worst story ever done in Doctor Who. Make your own decision on that. But that's my review of the Happiness Patrol. Anyway, what will be my next classic story? Well, I've got an idea. Whether I follow through on it, we'll have to wait and see. But until then, go and watch Happiness Patrol and enjoy yourselves. At your own cost. See ya.